Welcome to another episode of Purpose Today. I'm your host, Dr. April Dobson, and I'm very excited to have a special guest on the show who is a return guest, Morgan Carey. Morgan Carey is the podcast host of the People Power Project podcast. She is also the Chief People Development and principal of Morgan Carey Consulting Solutions. I'm so excited to have Morgan Carey as the guest on our show today, and we're going to talk about leading purposefully. And we'll have the opportunity of talking with Morgan about how to build better workplaces. You don't want to go anywhere. We'll be right back after this sponsorship message. Today's episode of Purpose Today is brought to you by the Purpose Professionals community in partnership with Purpose Today Global. To find out more information on the Purpose Professionals community, visit school and search for Purpose Professionals or scan the QR code. The Purpose Professionals community is specifically designed for professionals and entrepreneurs who are intentional about aligning their profession with their purpose. If you have a desire to develop, to grow your career, to pivot, to pursue your purpose, or to purposefully align your business with your purpose, then go to the Purpose Professionals community on school. It's also another opportunity to coordinate, collaborate, and network with like-minded professionals. So welcome back. I'm so excited to have Morgan Carey here today on Purpose Today with Dr. April Dobson. Welcome, Morgan.
Hey, April, thank you for having me. Thank you so much. Glad to be back.
You're very welcome. And so I want us to jump right in. I know we may have some individuals who are watching the show today who may have been blessed to see the episode when you were on Purpose Today previously, but we may have some people who were not fortunate enough to see the episode. So can you just share a little bit of insight about yourself with our viewers?
Yes. I am a workplace advocate, people developer, speaker, author, podcast host, a lot of things. I'm also an HR professional. And so my job is people. So I really love helping people move into a direction where they are happy with their lives professionally and personally. So I coach people on how to find that area for themselves, right? And feel like they are successful in the way that they want to be. And I just pride myself on doing that authentically and showing up from a place of care and kindness and true love and joy.
That's good. That's good. Thank you so much, Morgan, for sharing about yourself. You talked about, being kind, showing up with this authenticity, with true love, with joy. And I think all of those elements are elements that are needed to have a wonderful workplace environment. And
Yeah.
so we want to get into talking about building better workplaces. And I want to start first just from the perspective of, people who are formally in leadership within an organization. What can leaders do to ensure that they create the environment to build a better workplace?
This question is so important because people spend so much time at work. We spend so many hours, sometimes more time at work than we do at home. And even when we work remotely, we spend more time doing the work a lot of times than we have to put into our personal lives. And so I think it's important that we as leaders or the leaders of those organizations, companies, workplaces, create an environment in which people can thrive, right? And they can enjoy what they do and where they do it. There are a lot of people going to work or showing up to their workspace that don't really enjoy not just what they do. So that's a separate conversation, right? But enjoying the environment. Sometimes they enjoy what they do and don't enjoy the environment. And
Right.
most of the time, it's because of the people. Right. And this is why I went into people development, because there takes a certain level of awareness in order to create the environment in which people can thrive. Right. And so I think the first thing that leaders really have to do before they can even get into creating an environment which is external to themselves is to deal with the internal. They have to become really aware of themselves, what makes them tick, what makes them happy, what's making them unhappy, what's bothering them, and things like that. Because when we don't pay attention to those things, that energy has to go somewhere. The energy is just like stuck inside, but it has to go somewhere. And if it's not coming out in the things that you love or things that you get to deal with at home, it's going to come out somewhere. And a lot of times it comes out at work, which then you create poor environments, hostile environments. People don't like working for you. It's hard to be there. And it's almost impossible to create the environment in which people want to work. So now you don't have a good workplace. And we need better workplaces. You as the leader deserve a better workplace. And then the people who work for you on your team deserve a better workplace.
Absolutely. And you said something, and I think we need to unpack what you said. You talked about working on the internal aspects first. And I think it's important. It's a key because however a person is, feeling, that is going to be displayed in some way or another. So
Yeah.
if there's a leader who's watching and they're having some challenges, they're having some internal conflicts, what are some things that they can do to ensure that they're appropriately addressing those challenges and not creating the wrong kind of environment
Yeah.
in their organization?
Begin to focus on your own wellness, right? And that's wellness in many areas. I like to start with the spiritual wellness. Make sure you have a good spiritual life, talking to God in your word, telling yourselves the right things, learning the right things, right? Start with your spiritual being, and then move on to your health physically and mentally and all of those things, because you can't do well if you aren't well. Okay. And sometimes we think maybe we're not aware enough to know that we aren't well. So my advice to people who don't know if they're well or not, just start doing the things, because it can't hurt, right? You can
Right.
either get better or like you stay where you are, right? So if you were already well, then you can never get enough of this wellness. And that's like taking care of yourself. And we talk a lot about self-care. That became a buzzword like in the last like 5-10 years or so, right? Self-care, self-care, self-love. But what does that really mean, right? There is an element of true wellness to taking care of yourself. That means boundaries, right?
Yes.
That means time management, right? Then all
Yeah.
of these things are interconnected, right? Because if you got boundaries and you got time management, then guess what? You're probably going to sleep better, because you're going to have a better
Absolutely.
routine so you could get more sleep. The more sleep you got, the better your mood is, right? The less stress you have.
Right.
But in order to be able to get there, you have to be able to say, I am going to take care of myself. Right. And you have to figure out what that means for you, how you can fit that in. It's more than like bubble baths and lighting candles, right? It's actually buckling down and making a decision that I am going to take care of myself, and this is what it looks like. I think if you can start with your own wellness, the rest will come, right? Then because you can't really focus on servicing other people or building a good work environment. You can't do any of that if you aren't taking care of yourself first.
Absolutely. And I really love that, Morgan. I love the fact that you talked about the self-care has a lot of different approaches and wellness has a lot of different ways that we actually can enhance our wellness. So I'm really glad that you said that. And it really takes being able to know ourselves first, knowing what we need.
Yeah.
We're talking a lot about building better workplaces and starting with the person within. So we have to know what we need. You have some people who are introverts, but they're working with people all day. So they need time to themselves to decompress, to
You have
reflect.
to know it.
Yes. And
You
you
have
have
to
some
know
people,
that.
Yes, and you have some people who are extroverts, but yet the projects that they're working on require that they do that solely. So it's
Mhm.
finding the ways and the things that help them to remain, balanced, to remain energized. And I love the fact that you talked about the spiritual side as well and the physical. So we have the spiritual, we have the physical, we have the mental and emotional. And so I really appreciate the fact that you brought up the importance of looking at the whole self and
Yeah.
not just one side. So
Yeah, yeah. And I would suggest, in order to get, sometimes because it seems like it's a whole lot to think about. Oh, a whole wellness program. Start in bite-sized increments, right? So if you just need to focus on your spiritual, whatever that looks like, get that right, right? Or if you want to, I do really well on the spiritual, so I'm going to keep going with what I got going there, but I need to do better in the physical. What can I do there? Well, don't think, okay, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna run like 15 miles. No, maybe you just need to start with walking. Maybe you need
right.
to start with setting some time to maybe do some chair exercises. Many times we get stuck because we think of taking the next step is something really big, right? And it really just needs to start with something small, in small increments, bite-sized things, because if you keep doing those little bite-sized things, you're gonna make a big impact.
That's good. Thank you. Now,
Yeah.
I know we started this building better workplaces discussion off with focusing on people who are in formal leadership roles, but I believe within every person is a leader. And so, even if someone's not in a formal leadership role, I think there's a contribution that everyone can make to
Yeah.
help to build a better workplace. So, what are some things that people can do if they're not in a formal leadership role, but recognizing that there is a leader within? What can they do?
Yeah. Yeah. I love this question because on the People Power Project podcast, we're all about empowering the leader in you. So you don't necessarily have to be a formal leader. You don't have to have this big title in order to lead. Because like I said in the previous answer, this is it. It starts with yourself, right? So you first need to learn how to lead yourself before you can know how to lead others. And I think a good way for people who aren't in formal leadership roles to help to lead and help create better workplaces is to bring their ideas to work. Show up and then lead by example. You show up well energized and well organized, and bring the new topics and the new things to your manager or to your teammates that you think will help to build better workplaces. If you feel like the workplaces people are really reactive instead of proactive, maybe bring a team building something to work that focuses on how to plan better instead of reacting to things, which causes chaos and frustration and stress, right, at work. And that definitely isn't going to create a good working environment, right? So maybe you want to bring the idea to work on how to plan better. uh, Put it out there that you've noticed that things can get a little chaotic and you want to try to help to manage some of the chaos. Now, of course, when you're bringing these kind of ideas, you need to prepare yourself for some pushback, because people don't often like to be told what you notice if it's negative and you're not the leader, right? You have to deal with that as well, but know that that's a them problem and not you. So your job is to bring the stuff to work, bring the ideas, and let the outcome be whatever the outcome is going to be. Yeah.
That's great. I really like that, Morgan. I really like the fact that you're encouraging everyone to bring ideas. And I love the fact that you talked about doing it in a proactive manner when people
Yeah.
have been exposed to situations where things have been reactive. So if someone is intending on bringing an idea that they have to work, is there a certain way that you think that they should at least plan to package it? Or is there a certain approach that you believe that viewers should consider presenting the ideas that they have, given that they're going to need buy-in?
Yeah. First, know the team. Like, know your team and know who you work for. What do they respond best to? This takes a level of rapport with your
Yes.
team as well. So if you are an introvert and you don't really talk to your teammates, I would suggest starting there. Maybe building some relationship building is so key to building a better workplace. It's really hard to build a better workplace if you refuse to build relationships. And let's face it, some people just really don't like to build relationships. So this comment isn't for you if you don't like to build relationships, because it's going to take some level of relationship building in order to bring new ideas to work. Maybe connect yourself with the person that's better at building relationships. You don't have to have all the answers. You can build connections with people to help you get some of the answers. But first, know your environment, know the people you're going to be talking to. What's the best way that they receive information? Because most people don't receive information well in a way that's really criticizing and attacking, right? So you want to be able to present information in a way that people can receive it.
I love that. I think it's key to build the relationships first, establish the rapport, like you said. And as they do that, they're going to know how different people on their team, different colleagues, even, people who are senior, how they want the information to be presented. And they're going to consider what's going to be important to everyone who's involved. So that's excellent. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Now, I want us to go back and unpack something a little bit more, because there's something that you said earlier that's key. When we want to talk about building better workplaces, starting with ourselves, continuing to develop ourselves. So, what are some strategies that you believe that people can use to ensure that they're constantly developing themselves and also helping to contribute to developing others who are around them?
There's so much knowledge out there. There's formal education, right? But there's also books and conferences and podcasts and talk shows that you can get so much valuable information from to develop. I feel like it's impossible to stop developing yourself because there's so many tools to help you develop. I mean, and technology and AI and all those things are really helping us even more to almost learn every minute of the day, right? Of course, you need to take everything in stride, and there's balance with everything. But I'll tell you some of the things that I do personally that have helped me develop throughout the years is creating my own education program for things that I love to learn, right? And that may look like watching series on YouTube of speakers, right, that are talking about things that are important to me, like how to lead best, how to think better, have better thought processes, what books to read. There are some speakers that have been speaking since the 70s, 80s, 90s, and some of those lessons are still really valuable today. So I think that you can find education everywhere. It's something as simple as starting with a YouTube video, right, of a speaker, or books. There's this book that I love called Radical Candor by Kim Scott, and it's a leadership and development book, and it talks about how to challenge directly on your team and care personally, and how using that tactic is radical candor, and how that will help you be a better leader and build better relationships and get better outcomes from the people on your team. I think, again, podcasts, talk shows, things like that. There's so many elements, learning tools out here that you can use. But the key is you have to commit. You have to
Absolutely.
commit to the thing that you want to learn, and that'll lead you on a path to learning that'll probably set you up for success as a leader.
I love that. And, you said something that I want to really highlight, because you talked about all of the formal and informal ways that people can develop, and the fact that we should be constantly developing.
Yeah.
And I love that. And so with some of the things that you talked about, podcasts, shows, books, these are things that people can do to develop on their timeline, right? So maybe they have 15 minutes in the morning or an hour in the evening. They can sit down and watch a podcast, a talk show, read a book, even during the times that they might be very busy. And then you
Yeah.
mentioned some more formal things that people can do,
Yeah.
attending conferences. So I love the robust examples that you gave that
Yeah.
people can incorporate with development.
Yeah, and I think the key is understanding that it doesn't have to be all or nothing, because sometimes we feel like, oh, I can't afford to go to the 400 to $1,000 conference, right? I can't afford to do that, so I'm not gonna do anything, or I don't have time, I don't have a whole hour to contribute to reading a book right now, so I won't read anything. If you could just read a page, a chapter or something like that, it may not take you a whole hour. Maybe dedicate 30 minutes. Maybe say, I'm going to dedicate 10 minutes to this thing. You have to start somewhere. It doesn't have to be all or nothing to contribute to your development.
Thank you, Morgan. I'm glad you said that because I know some organizations are they're scaling back on courses that they're sending employees to. They're scaling back on what they're paying for professional development. But there's always opportunities for development. And even within an organization, leaders can choose to create programs. You mentioned creating programs. And so they can have professionals within the organization provide training and development.
Yeah.
And that's at no cost to the organization. So are there any other things that you think that organizational leaders can do formally to create development opportunities, even if their organization is reducing their training budget?
Yeah, yeah. I think one thing that we're doing in my organization is we're creating our own leadership and development program in-house with the expertise that we have, on staff, right? We're taking bits and pieces of our expertise and putting it all together to create a leadership and development program so we could continue to hire and train within for leaders, right? So we don't always have to go outside and look for leaders. We may have really good leaders right inside and they're not in a leadership position now, but they may need a little bit more help on some essentials to become a better leader. Well, we have leaders that can also contribute to coaching and mentoring these people to be better leaders before they even get in the position. And I think it's a really cost-effective way to do that because we're already there. Right? We just need to carve out a little bit of time to maybe build this program and present it to the employees and assess results. I think that that's a great place to start. Just start with the resources that you already have.
That's great. Thank you so much. I think those are wonderful tips
Yeah.
and very practical for leaders within organizations to use.
Yeah.
Now, you said something about people progressing into other opportunities, being promoted, growing. And I think oftentimes with our development, we come to a point in our career that it's time for us to either scale up and it works in with our development. And sometimes there comes a time when we need to pivot.
Yeah.
And I know that when we delay with the pivot that we need to make, or we delay, with those moves, it can be impacting, for the workplace. And so I want to cover two sides. And so we'll start, if you don't mind, to just share what would you say to someone who's in an organization, they know that it's time for them to either pivot or to scale up, but they're a little bit apprehensive about doing so. What would you say to them, and how could that impact the organization if they choose to stay in that sort of stuck place?
Yeah, I would say to them, let's do a little exercise and measure the cost of you staying in this position, knowing that it's probably time for you to move on to something else, right? And let's weigh the cost of that. Is it going to cost you another 5 years that you could be developing and mastering your next level of success? Right? Or is it even going to cost you 1 year? And is that cost worth it to you to stay comfortable? Right? So we're going to weigh the cost versus the comfort. Because usually the thing that stops us from going to the next level is because we know what's going to happen every day when we come in this office. I already know these people. I know what to expect. If a bump hits, I know exactly how to get out of it because I've been doing it for the last 15 to 20 years, right? I know exactly what to do. So there's comfort and familiarity. with where you are. And on the other side of the next move, it's scary because you don't know. It's like the fear of the unknown. But again, going back to weighing the cost of advancement versus comfort, right? And weighing the risk of all of that. I think doing that exercise is worth it. And usually what people find is I'm better off taking the next step, because if you're already so uncomfortable, you're uncomfortable enough to recognize that it's probably time to pivot, then it's probably worth considering something on the other side of just making that next step. So that would be my advice to someone, to start with weighing, the cost of staying.
That's great advice. Thank you so much, Morgan.
Yeah.
And weighing the cost of staying, you talked about the time, you talked about how, they could be in another position, growing in that other level of success, so there may be some salary that they're leaving on the
Yeah.
table. There could be a stressor with the fact of not making a decision, right? There's a lot of things. And so I really appreciate you saying that it's important for them to weigh the cost
Yeah.
of, not making the move. So thank
Absolutely.
you.
And sometimes if you stay too long, even if because indecision is a weight, right? And if you're walking around carrying that weight, I told someone the other day, never underestimate the power of dead weight. When you're walking around with that indecision, which is a form of dead weight, right? It's impacting you in that role. So if you stay too long, sometimes you start to affect negatively even the role that you're in, because it's time for you to get out of there. It's time for you to pivot, right? And you're
Yeah.
walking around with this dead weight, and the dead weight is showing up in poor performance on your end. Something you used to do really well, you just kind of like, you don't do so well anymore because
Yeah.
you're walking around with dead weight, and you really shouldn't be there. It's time for you to move. So it could be really detrimental to your legacy, your record, even your mindset, right? Because if you stay somewhere and you start failing at things that you used to succeed at, you start doing a poor job at things you used to do, it can take an effect on your psyche, right? It's so many areas that can be affected or impacted negatively when you don't pivot as you should.
Yes. Now, thank you so much for that, Morgan. And I want to take a look at the other side of the coin, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
someone's waited. They took your advice. They've waited, and now they see the cost of me staying here is not worth it.
Yeah.
I am going to move on. So I've made the decision. I'm going to go ahead and progress to the next opportunity, whatever that opportunity is. But they want to make sure that they prepare their colleagues. They want to prepare everyone who they've worked with. They have a wonderful workplace. They want to continue to make sure they're building a better workplace. What are some things that people can do when they know that they have a desire to grow into another role, either internally or external to the organization, and they know that they're ready to move on to something else? What can they do to best posture their organization and the colleagues who they work with to continue to make it a better workplace to prepare for their transition?
I'm going to tell you, April, I think that true leaders should be doing this ongoing anyway, right? I think that you should always be preparing where you work, the people you work for. If you respect this job and you care about where they're going to stand when you're no longer there, you should be preparing for your departure at all times. Okay, because the truth of the matter is anything can happen. God forbid any kind of disaster, but anything can happen where we are no longer at that job. Right. So as a leader, it is your job to prepare the people, that prepare your team, prepare your coworkers to function without you. And this is what many leaders are afraid to do because they want to ensure that the job needs them. Right. And that's something you got to work on within yourself, because that's a little bit of an insecurity. Right. You have to be sure that they can function without you. That's what good leaders do. You give them what you have, right? You give them your knowledge. You share with them with authentic personality how to do well, right? Because if you prepare people to do well, it's just a great reflection of you anyway, right? If you hold on to information and gatekeep things because you want to be the only one to know how to do it, that's a poor leadership trait. And we got to let go of that. So I think in order to set your organization up for success for your departure, you should be preparing them at all times to function well without you. And this can
I
happen ongoing by building the right SOPs, by making the right relationship building, and leading by example, showing the people that work for you how to do this. And then they will be doing it as well as they build in their position.
I agree. And that's excellent advice. So, for those of you leaders who have been preparing your organization to function post your tenure, congratulations. Give yourself a round of applause, a pat on the back. And for those of you who have not been doing that, this is an opportunity for you to incorporate it. So make the commitment today that starting today, you are
Yeah,
going to do that.
yeah,
Now, Morgan, I want us to talk more about the services that Morgan Carey Consulting Solutions offers to professionals. So, can you
yeah.
share more about your services and some of the emerging things that Morgan Carey Consulting Solutions has on the forefront?
Yeah, so we offer human resources consulting and training to small and mid-sized businesses, offering them all the things human resources and helping them build. And we specialize in building human resources departments from the ground up. But individual services include our Thrive coaching for high achieving women. Many times as high achieving women, we are often told that we're too much, we're too strong, we're too this, we're too something, right? And so our coaching helps people continue to make an impact while also taking care of themselves, loving what they have to offer, and learning how to remain confident, move in clarity, and continue to build the kind of success that they want, and help them understand that the things that people think about you, that's a them problem. You just continue to move in the joy and in the love that is inside of you, and everything will be okay. We kind of dig into the weeds of where we get some of these thought processes from, that we are too much, or that we can't tell people about our success, or we should kind of shrink ourselves so we don't seem so big and so loud, right? We deal with that because that can have an effect on us mentally, and it affects our level of success and how we feel about our level of success. So that's how we coach our clients. And we also have a community on school called Pretty and Punished, which is connected to this idea of feeling like too much. I created a video on TikTok. You can find me on the People Power Project on TikTok. And I created a video that says they don't like you because you're pretty and you know what you're doing. And it was a little joke, but it got a huge response because people, more and more people than we realize, are dealing with something called pretty punishment, right? And so we've heard about pretty privilege, but we don't talk a lot about pretty punishment, and how sometimes people are really intimidated by how you show up to work, how well you dress, how well you talk, and how well you look, and you know exactly what you're talking about, and it makes them feel inadequate. Well, that's a them problem. And we talk about how you can continue to move forward in confidence, even though those people are trying to come up against you.
Well, I think if people missed it, so certainly that's excellent. So thank you so much for sharing that. It's not your problem; it's a them problem, and so we don't focus on solving those types of problems, right? We find ways to solve other problems that are in the world, but not those kind of problems.
Yeah, yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. And so certainly people can connect with your community on school. And so how would they get started if they're interested in joining your community, or if they're interested in the services that Morgan Carey Consulting Solutions provides? Where would they start?
Yes, you can start either place. You can find me on TikTok at the People Power Project. You can follow me on Instagram at Morgan_in motion. And you can email me at mcarey, Carey, at morgancareyconsultant.com. You can find me on LinkedIn as Morgan Carey. Any one of those avenues, you can go there, and I can send you the link to school. There's many ways to connect, and I look forward to connecting.
Fantastic. Now, I know that you and I could probably talk all day. Well, certainly, you're going to have to come back again as a guest. It's always a joy to talk with you and
Yes.
always a joy to have you as a guest on Purpose Today. Is there anything that we haven't talked about today that you would like to share about anything?
I really appreciate this opportunity. I love when we get to connect, and I'm looking forward to meeting and connecting with anyone that's listening here and how I can help them continue to help build better workplaces. At the end of the People Power Project, we always talk about how people empowered workspaces are simply the best workplaces because it really is about empowering the people. And because without them, we can't make better workplaces. Without people, we really don't have anything. So it's so important that we continue to try to develop ourselves, love ourselves, live in joy so we can show up at work with this same joy and continue to create better workspaces.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you, Morgan.
I
I know that we're going to talk again. You're going to be backstage, but thank you again for all of the insight and wisdom that you've shared. For those of you, who are watching, if you missed it, Morgan Carey is the website.
Yeah.
And you can send an email to Morgan at mcarey@morgancareyconsulting.com. And you can connect with her on LinkedIn. And we will do our best to drop those links in the chat on YouTube. And so thank you again, Morgan. I know you're going to be backstage, but I'll talk with you here in just a little bit. And I want to thank all of the guests who are watching today. I certainly appreciate all of you for tuning in to this episode, Leading Purposefully, Building Better Workplaces. We've had our guest, Morgan Carey, on today, and it's been certainly a pleasure having her on the show today. I do encourage you to connect with Morgan at your leisure. And I do invite you, if you are interested in being a guest on Purpose Today, or you're someone who you're in a place, need to pivot professionally, you're not quite sure what to do to pivot, I really encourage you to send an email to us at admin@purposetoday.com. It's been certainly a pleasure having you all viewing live today for Purpose Today with Dr. April Dobson and our very special guest, Morgan Carey. Until next time, make it a purpose-filled